Well, farmers and trade unionists are out in their hundreds today in Brussels, protesting against the EU negotiations to finalise the controversial transatlantic trade agreement with the United States. Farmers lit fires and used firecrackers as they stood in front of the EU headquarters earlier this morning. Trade unionists, environmentalists and agricultural workers have criticised TTIP, fearing it will affect environmental protection standards and further reduce subsidies to an agricultural sector already squeezed amid an economic slump in the Eurozone. Although talks have been extended for another year until both EU and US agree on various issues, fears are that the details of this will not be surfaced to the public. Well, for more on TTIP, John Hilary, an Executive Director for War on Want, is joining us over the phone. Mr. Hilary, the British government, for their part, says that TTIP could add £10 billion to the UK economy, and it can also add another £100 billion to the EU every year. On the onset, it sounds pretty good, but what's behind this opposition?
Well, those figures have been widely discredited as being bogus figures with no background to them. Even though the UK government continues to put them in public, in private it recognises that they have no credibility. The real figures, and even the European Commission has admitted this, the real figures on TTIP show that there will be at least 1 million jobs lost as a direct result of the negotiations. There will be a massive transfer of more power and more wealth to big business interests away from working people. And also, as you said in your intro, the democratic rights of the peoples of Europe will be completely subsumed under the interests of big business. So we think it's absolutely terrible news for working people, for farmers, for trade unionists, for ordinary families all the way across Europe and in the USA as well. This is not the US against the EU. This is very much big business on both sides of the Atlantic trying to get the best deal for them and the worst deal for everyone else.
So given those points that you've just given, why do you think leaders such as British Prime Minister David Cameron is pushing so hard to get this TTIP agreement through then?
Well, you will know from David Cameron's own record in the UK that the primary interest of his party is to increase the income and the power of big business. That's what the Conservative Party stands for. And he is trying to continue that both at the domestic level and also internationally. Internationally, he's trying to do it through TTIP and other of these free trade agreements. But the good news is that the more people learn about TTIP, the more outraged they become. They see that it's going to be a huge transfer of power away from democracy, away from societies, and people just won't allow that to happen.
And in regard to the UK, there's been a lot of criticism and a lot of worry about how this could actually impact the NHS, hasn't there, as well?
That's right, and we've seen explicitly that health services, including medical services, midwifery, dentistry, physiotherapy, all of these services are included within TTIP. There's no doubt about that. And the concern for us is that because the private sector is already involved in delivering NHS frontline services, so you have companies like Virgin delivering frontline services, if you include those services within TTIP, it will be impossible to bring the NHS back into public hands. So we're very, very worried about health, but also education, postal services, sewerage, rail. All of these services are included within this deal with the express interest of business in trying to force their way into the public sector.
And do you think the EU and the US will be able to agree on this TTIP agreement? Because it's taken quite a bit of time and they haven't actually had the chance or the ability to push it through just yet because they still have some disagreements on some points or some aspects of this agreement as well.
Well, these are very complicated agreements, so usually they do take a long time. We think that they are very over-optimistic about pushing it through in 2015, which is now their latest objective. We believe that with the levels of public outrage and public opposition, it will be impossible for them to make any further progress. They've already had to freeze the negotiations on one of the most controversial aspects of TTIP, the investor-state rules. And so we think that they're going to find it very, very difficult to get this to an end. But that will only really be a possibility of stopping TTIP if people around Europe, people around the USA, rise up and say we do not want to see such a transfer of power to big business.
Yes, Hilary there, joining us over the phone from London, Executive Director for War on Want.